So our speaker is Jason Delong, and Jason and I we've known each other, I think, for 10 years now. And we met through another coaching program, and we went through it together, and then we've coached together. And so I've had the pleasure of knowing Jason and Jana and their kids for a long time, just a great family. And Jason actually has a degree in architecture as well as a minor in construction science. In 2001, bought his first rehab and has been doing them ever since, each year completing like 2 to 4. Also has worked with subdivisions. He's built a real estate team, just a go-getter. In fact, he used to even work at, was it FedEx or UPS?
UPS.
UPS in the mornings at like 4 a.m, and then start his day at like 6 or whatever on real estate and do it every single day and work out. Like, this guy just does it all. And they have this huge farm in Missouri. And so anyway, I'm excited to introduce to you Jason. He's going to talk about flips and rehabs and give us just a nice education on how to do it and what to look for. So Jason, take it away.
You make that sound very glamorous. Like, I want my life now.
Yeah.
All right. So, like Stacy said, we've been doing this for a long time, and just, it's easy to explain, but, and I'm open to questions and stuff as we go along. But I put together a small presentation. So I just wanted to say, like, kind of why we do it. We wanted to build, so obviously with real estate, you don't have a 401k. So we just wanted to build our retirement and, college fund, all the stuff that we didn't have set up. So that's why we've invested in long-term, short-term rental properties and do the flip properties. So yeah, just support our retirement plan. Extra monthly income, just it always helps those slow real estate months. It helps to be in addition to that income. It's good tax write-offs. That's one of the biggest benefits, I think, in my opinion. And then, Jana, she went to school for interior design, and with my architecture, just helps feed our creative side. So, real estate can be kind of mundane and, the same thing over and over and over. But, if you have a rental property or a flip, you can kind of get creative with that, and just kind of helps to add a little creativity to the real estate in general. And then the other thing I think has been big too is just it's helped for our customers and clients to offer them cash offers. And you come across people that their house is not ready for the market yet, so we'll offer to buy it or help them fix it up, kind of a partnership deal, and you get the listing and make them happy, move on down the road and get referrals from that. So the sources that we find our properties, the first one, I mean, just MLS. I mean, it's getting tougher to find them on the MLS anymore, but we used to just scour the MLS and, look for ones that either, heavy days on market or need a lot of work, look at those and offer on those. But I mean, they're still out there. I've got a lot of friends that still look. I don't look as much anymore, just I don't have the time. But Z Buyer, pre-foreclosures, some of the motivated seller leads that you could buy. When we started buying those probably 15 years ago, and you get a bunch of tire kickers on those, but at least they're raising their hand like they want a cash offer. And so, we still buy those and get quite a few leads from those. So, and there's a lot of those out there, but Z Buyer is a big one that a lot of people use, and pre-foreclosures, you can get those just like expired and FSBO leads.
Can I ask you a question quick on that, Jason? Back to the Z Buyer and pre-foreclosures.
Yeah.
On the pre-foreclosure, are you getting those from like a Vulcan or something, or where do you identify those?
I get those. I use My Plus Leads.
Okay.
So that's where we get our FSBO and expireds, and they have pre-foreclosures.
Okay.
So, and I know they're different for every state, because I network with a dozen other agents around the country, and you know, like Missouri is different than Pennsylvania or other states, so I know they all kind of come through a little bit differently
Okay,
on that
cool.
end. Yeah.
And if you guys have questions, you can type them in the chat and then we'll answer them either at the end, or if you have something that pertains to right when he's talking about it, feel free to ask as well. So keep going, Jason.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, for sure. So wholesalers, we've got quite a few in this market here in Kansas City, but I just network with 5 or 6 of the biggest wholesalers. And so a lot of times they know we're a buyer. So if they have something in the areas that we look in, they'll usually put it out to me first. And a lot, some of those are just, they're inflated a little bit, and the margins are slimmer, but I mean, I offer on them sometimes if below what they're asking, and if it's not moving, because wholesalers want to move those properties pretty quick. And if it's not moving at the price they want, then they'll go back to the seller and ask for a discount so they can, still make their spread. But wholesalers is a good one. We pick up, probably two to 4 a month from wholesalers. And then, expireds and FSBOs. I mean, I don't know if you guys all, most agents are working those leads, but again, we just offer the cash option, and we've got a couple other different strategies that, if it's kind of in between a cash and a retail sale, we'll do a 2-step process where you offer them cash and do a first close, and then we'll go in and update the property and sell it on the back end, and put some more equity back in their pocket if it's kind of a win-win situation. And agents, so I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and I do a lot of like Facebook lives, throughout the construction of like our in our market. They know that's what I do, and so I'll get quite a few agents that call me like, "Hey, I got this seller that their house needs work." Actually, and I'll buy them from agents. Like I had an agent, we just bought one, just put it on the market last week, that it was a rental for her for 10 years, and she was like, "Man, it's got foundation issues and this and that," and she goes, I don't want to go through it. So we ended up making her an offer and bought a house, directly from the agent. That happens probably once a year. So, just kind of putting the word out there, and, people start knowing what you're doing, and they just bring you deals. And then, past clients, when you're reaching out to past clients, let them know that you have the investment side, and, they might refer you a property. Like we just got another referral that we just bought from Jana's old high school cheerleading coach, who's one of our past clients, and was a friend of hers. And yeah, we ended up just buying her house cash, and they're moving out of state. So those are our best sources that I could think of that I put in here. So anybody got any questions on those, or anything else that you can think of as far as sources? And then I just wanted to touch on like analyzing deals. Just depends, I mean, if it's a rental, you're obviously looking for monthly cash flow. I know some people try, the short term versus long term. Some people try to base the numbers on short term, if it's a higher, monthly cash flow. But then, like Kansas City, just about a year ago, they outlawed short term rentals if you weren't already permitted for them, and it kind of, I mean, they're shooting themselves in the foot, I think. But we had a couple in Kansas City that were good cash flowing properties, and we had to stop because they mandated, outlawed, put a ban on the short-term rental. So you can't always base your numbers on those, because if something changes and it doesn't make sense long-term, then, you're kind of, you either got to sell or figure something else out. So really, like, especially on the flips, we use a 70% or 75% LTV. So if the house is, the retail value is 100,000, we're at 70,000 minus repairs. That's kind of how a quick way to figure your offer price. And like you can go it depends on the price of the house. You can go 75 a lot of times and still have your margins in there as long as you don't have any surprises, along the way. And then you want to build your power team, contractors, subcontractors, lenders. So like because when you go in and evaluate a property, you don't have a whole lot of time. So you want to be able to have people on call to come in and help you run the numbers and make sure you're getting into this, offer at the right price. And I thought there was more. Well, that is it in a nutshell.
Well, we've got a couple questions already, so this is good. And I think
Yeah.
it'll come to more. So Sean,
Yeah.
we'll come to you in 1 second. You can unmute and ask your question, but Joe said, are these all cash offers or sub 2 and creative finance for better entry? What do you find most of your deals, your offers having?
So we use, and I did have a slide on that. So we use anywhere from cash. We use some local banks, more so on our rehabs, and then we use private lenders. We've got 3 or 4 of those on the quicker deals. Now they're higher rates, so you got to make sure your margins are better. But I've done some owner finance. Haven't done a lot of subject to. I did back in the days, but it's harder, in my opinion, it's harder to get those through. A lot of people don't understand them. But I've done some rent to own in the past where basically I rent the house and take over their payments while we fix it up instead of so they basically carry the house. I fund the renovation and then sell it, on the back end.
Got it. And so when you're analyzing a deal, kind of take us through that. So you see something on, let's just use your wholesalers. Okay. So kind of talk us through that process. So a wholesaler calls you and says, hey, I just picked up this property. How does that conversation go? And especially when it's not on the MLS, how do you determine what is a good price for it? Like, kind of walk us through that.
Yes. I mean, and being in real estate, I mean, everyone's got, the comps and all that stuff. I mean, you're way ahead of the game as far as figuring that out. So I'll just run, like we bought one just down the street from my parents, like the neighborhood I grew up in. And it was and this one, they were asking a little more. I was like, the margin wasn't there. But essentially, I mean, I'll look at the house, usually walk through it first and kind of see what changes we could make to make it better and what the end, fixed up value is going to be. And then I'll just work backwards and say, all right, we're going to put, 70,000 into this one. And, we want to make, 40,000 or, whatever your margin is. You got your selling fees and kind of just work backwards, till you get your bottom line number, which is like, this is the most amount I could pay for this house. So, and, we try not to stray from that unless it's like a no brainer, either an easy fix or it's going to sell real quick. You try not to stray from that, because if you do run into a surprise, as you're going through the remodel, then, it's easily 5,000, 10,000 that you could be in the hole.
Yeah. And so let's just use your number of 100,000. So if a property is, they're asking 100 and you're going to build in, 70% minus repairs. So let's say you come in with a $70,000 offer. Okay. Then what are you hoping that property is worth? Or like, how is there a percentage that you're looking on making on a deal to know it's good as well? Because I'm sure that's part of it versus, just buying it at a discount.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you start with 70, minus repairs, like, so say property is going to be fixed up, value 100,000, and you're going in at 70%. So you're at 70 minus, say it takes 20,000 to fix up. So you're offering 50. I mean, on that, something like that, you should make, after selling fees, I would say probably 20,000.
Okay, got
But
it.
at the end of the day, like if you figure, all right, we might make 20 on this, all said and done, taking out utilities, insurance, and you're probably more like 15, 16.
Okay, that makes sense. And do you find it hard to find people that are willing to sell at, a 70% off the offer plus all that repair cost?
Well, and you're not really showing them all the numbers, but I mean, they know their house needs work. And that's another thing too. Like and Stacy knows, I mean, I'm not like a high D, and because there's some investors that go in and they'll just be talking to the seller and just trashing their house in front of them. Like, man, this is their house. No matter what kind of shape it's in, like this is their house. You don't walk into someone's house and be like, oh man, we gotta, tear this out, this. And so, you kind of lightly massage it, and just be like, well, look, it's gonna take, a decent amount of work, and, kind of word it in a nice way, but they know their house needs work. So and then I mean, you just give them a bottom line, like, look, this is kind of what we can pay for it, and kind of just put the offer out there, and every once in a while, it's like, oh, I can't do that, and I kind of just leave it alone, like, all right, well, I mean, that's where we're at. If you change your mind, let me know, and if they don't call back in a couple of days, I might call them back if we need properties and maybe offer a little bit more if we can go more, but I'm not a lowballer either. So pretty much when I send them an offer, it's a pretty good offer. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is nice too. Saves your time, saves theirs.
Right.
So if someone was starting today and wanted to go to a lender and say, hey, I need, I'm going to start investing, but maybe also they don't have the cash to put out for repairs. Is there certain types of lenders that you would look for? Or how do you establish that relationship? Or do you just have to keep going to multiple lenders? What's that process?
I think if you're just starting out, because a lot of local lenders are going to look for experience. If you have experience, now a rental might be a little bit easier just because they're basing that on numbers. But like for a flip, either partner with someone that's already doing it or has done it, or have them kind of guide you through the process, or if you don't have experience, I would say like a private lender, because there's quite a few of those online that maybe don't require as much experience, but you're going to pay the higher rates.
Yeah. That's
Um,
what I was going to ask you too. What kind of like rates can you expect maybe from private lenders versus a bank lender? Like, what would that look like?
so like our local bank right now is about 8.25, and they have an origination fee that's fairly small, like 1,500 or so. But I've got one of our private lenders. He's no points, 10%. I mean, he's probably like my best one because he'll fund it. He'll fund it quick, and it's super easy. But then we also have a local one who's uh, easy as well, but they're also like 3 to 4 points, and I think 14%.
Okay.
So quite a bit higher. But they'll also fund half the rehab at closing. So they're by far the easiest, but it's also the most expensive too.
Yeah. And how long do you expect? Well, I suppose that's it depends, but how long do you like your projects to take so that okay, this is going to fit our, you know, money amount we want to make so we don't continue to pay interest? Like, what ideally, if you had to guess, would that number be?
Like how long for each project?
Yeah.
Um, it depends, but I mean that's something you definitely want to go in at the start and try to hold to it. Some are quick, we're 30 to 60 days. Other ones, we're like 3 to 4 months. And then you got to include your marketing time on there. Like once you put it on the market, closing time. So we try to stay under 6 months total,
Okay.
but we've got one now. This was like we had like 12 or 13 going like 3 years ago. It was kind of like when all the materials started going up,
Mm.
like right after COVID. And so everything was taking longer, started costing more. And then next thing you know, we had like 12 properties. We were like in some way, shape, or form in the process of remodeling. And it was just like a bottleneck. I mean, nothing that we really saw happening until we're like, oh crap, like this is where we're at. But we had one of our private lenders out of California. They had a property here in Johnson County that, so the stay on foreclosures, like they couldn't foreclose on anything during COVID. Well, Johnson County was one of the last ones to kind of open that back up. And I was like, I'll buy that. I mean, they were going to hold the note and whatever. Well, long story short, that one we've been paying interest on, and it's a higher end. Like we're on the market for like just over $1 million,
Mm.
and we've been paying interest on that one for 3 years. So it's, I mean, that one, like we're going to lose 200,000.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. That's a fun one.
yeah, that's our thorn in the side right now, but
Yeah.
we're at the tail end.
Yeah. Yeah. That's also the other side of it, right? Like
Oh yeah,
you can make good money, but you also have to be prepared for ones that there's no explanation, but it just happens that way.
yeah, no, exactly. And we've only, I mean, I bet you I can count on one hand over the last 20 years any ones that I've lost money on.
Yeah.
And I think there maybe was one that we lost like maybe 10,000 on, but this is definitely going to like make up for all the rest of it.
Yeah. Shoot. Yes. Well, guys, do you have any questions about, you did such a good job, like just laying it out, Jason. But if you guys have questions, type them in the chat, or raise your hand either way. Um, Jason, how did you find contractors that won't overcharge you because they're starting to understand like the money you're making, and how do you manage all these projects? Like you said, you had 13 going at once. Like how do you manage all that, and a family and a farm and all the other things, kids?
Yeah, well, like so that I think our magic number to have going at one time is probably 4 to 5 at max. So we just brought a buddy of mine that we've done rehabs. Did you see Jana's comment?
Yeah, I just did. Yeah.
Um, we just brought him on, kind of partnered with him, kind of moving forward, just because he'll take care of like the day to day, contractors and manage that part, so I can focus more on what I should be focusing on the real estate end. But and that's the thing, it's like it can become a distraction to where some days I'm like, man, what am I doing? I'm sitting here like going around to 3 or 4 of our projects, and I'm like, I should be on the phone calling, so it's like it can
Yeah.
become a distraction. I mean, that like me, you and Lars have talked about that for years. I remember Lars is like, dude, just stop rehabbing houses. I'm like, I can't. It's like a drug. I can't. but
I need
but
to.
also, like, I mean, the other thing too is, Jana's, I mean, she'll like, you need to focus on something else. And but it's also brought a lot of opportunities to us. Like we're working on developing some land now with some other guys, and I'm like, they wouldn't have called me if they didn't know if I didn't have this experience. And so I
Yeah.
think there's multiple layers to it, but you have to control that to where it doesn't like take over. And you're basically trading dollars for time.
Yeah. Yep. Sean Langston, who's on this call. I don't know if you've met him, but if you guys have actually met in person or not, but Sean also does some flips and develops some developments as well. So similar to you,
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah. So you guys for sure should connect. Should like do the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so interesting to me when people, like, I can understand rentals, okay, but for some reason flips, I always try. It's like it's sort of a block in my head. Like, how would that work? We've done one. It actually was, we were lucky. We bought it very, very inexpensive. It was actually a property that Citibank forgot to foreclose on. Like they told the
Wow.
people they foreclosed, and it was coming up for tax deed. And this lady knew a friend of mine and she saw it in the paper and she was like, I thought we were foreclosed on years ago. We haven't lived there for, 5 years or something.
That's
So
crazy.
anyway, yeah, we bought it super cheap, like 30,000. I had to pay off some liens and stuff from them. And we put in like 50, I think. So we had like 80 into it and we sold it for 150 and
Oh,
had like
wow.
7 offers. Crazy. And then I was like, nope, no more. We're done.
Yeah. Mic drop.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm out.
But that was really weird, right? Like something that just
Yeah.
does, I couldn't believe it wasn't foreclosed on. So that was just really weird. But um, so not last question, but if someone wants to add this to their portfolio, and you kind of mentioned some of the things you need together, right? You need the contractors. Oh, I don't think I let you answer that question about how do you make sure contractors don't like overcharge you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's tough. I mean, I think that's more experience. And again, like I would just, if you've never done it before and want to do it, I would like partner with somebody that's done it, um,
Oh,
and
that's
have
a
them,
good one.
guide you along the way. Because I've had people that, I mean, there's so many people that have done their first rehab. And it's like, oh, everyone wants to flip a house, and then I mean, they just end up like paying way too much money, and it's
Yeah.
just so, um, yeah, it's
And
tough to get into, and if you don't have experience. So I would just, yeah, definitely partner with somebody or have somebody mentor you through the process.
yeah. And have you ever done that where you invest somewhere you don't live or like I know you have stuff in the Ozarks, but like would you ever buy something in Idaho with another investor? Maybe you knew them or met them. Like, would you ever do that? Or would you recommend investing in areas you personally know, maybe until a certain point and then consider that?
Yeah, I think I would do a rental. I don't know if I'd do a flip in another market, unless there was someone that on like boots on the ground
Yeah.
to manage that.
Yeah.
It's
That
yeah,
makes
it's
sense.
just tougher. Yeah. Well, even like, the ones in the Ozarks and Branson, like, we've got decent contractors there, but like there's from time to time, it's like, all right, I just gotta go down there, and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like it is like that with like high commercial lake areas, popular
Yeah.
lake areas. It's hard to find good
Yeah,
help. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is.
Anything else you can think of that is important to know when looking to flip or invest, or is it important that you have, you had architecture, Jana had design. So those are like two awesome things to have. If people don't have that, do they, I mean, obviously with their contractor, but like, do they create, here's like 4 sample kitchens that could possibly fit into a similar type of properties. And we know these kitchens cost 10,000, maybe you have 3, I don't know. Do you do things like that? Would you recommend things like that? Or do they just need to work with people that have that type of experience?
Yeah, and I think it just, I mean, obviously our rehabs now look way different than they did, 20 years ago. Like when I first started my first flip, like me and a buddy were doing it on our own. Like I was doing all the work,
Mm.
and it wasn't great work. I mean, it was enough to get the property sold but then I built houses for 4 years, and that's when I really figured out like what I didn't know, and like the process changed. And so it comes with experience just like anything else. But I would just start small. I mean, because I do like we really like kind of re-engineer like bathrooms and kitchens, but I would just start small and like because and don't like overdo it. Like start small and on something that you can easily tackle, keep it simple, and then build from there.
Yeah. I could see how it would be easy to overdo properties a lot. Like if you're starting, because you see everything on Pinterest, everything on,
Yeah.
HGTV, Instagram, whatever. And you're like, oh my gosh, it has to look like this, right? Well, then, we might overpay for that stuff because it's just not, something that is that affordable, right? It's all for show on those types of things.
Right. Yep. 100%.
Is it hard to stay in a budget?
That's a question for Jana. No, I mean, no. To answer your question, it's not hard, but like we're more than, I mean, probably 90% of the time over budget.
Sure. Do you plan
Um,
for that too in your numbers, like a 20% or whatever it is? Do you have a percentage that you kind of plan for?
uh,
Sorry, I was
Jana
going
must
to
be
answer
jumping
that
on.
question, but we have a chicken back here.
See, I told you guys there's a farm. Yeah, go ahead.
Now I forgot what I was going to say with that chicken interruption. Yeah, I would say we're always over budget, but that is due to lack of planning up front and being realistic with the budget at the very beginning.
Sure.
Yeah.
So like when you're planning for how much like rerouting a bathroom would take, or you mean, oh, we have to do tile, a brand new tub, we can't use this one, or all of
Yeah,
that?
or just like, and just walking through. I think a lot of the problem comes in too, where Jason will price it and then I'll walk through and be like, oh, let's take that wall out. That would be
Oh yeah.
amazing. So like if we were both there at the same time, we'd probably be a little
Yes.
better.
So we have like a Chip and Joanna
Yeah.
situation. Got it.
And then I also wanted to say, you asked the question about having like different kitchen styles, but
Yeah.
there's so many resources out there right now of designers. And like we have a place here called Pro Source, and they do kitchen cabinets, they do tile, they do flooring, they do carpet. So that's 90% of what you're doing there. It's a one-stop shop and can go pick everything out.
Oh,
It's
that's
just
nice.
finding that resource, and a lot of times you can get a discount too when you're buying everything in one location.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's a good one to
Through the years
find.
we've found our sources, and they're not a one-stop shop, but for somebody that's just starting out, it would
Yeah.
probably be an easier option to go that route until you get your people figured out.
Yeah, that's a great one. And probably to look for as well, like maybe where do builders get a lot of their materials? So if there's like a
Right.
wholesale carpet place or something, that would be a good option to look at, because you may be able to get that.
For sure. Definitely reach out to your local builders. We've built those relationships too, just from being in new construction and having those builder relationships. So that's a great option.
Yes, that's perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for all the tips and expertise and just your time. I appreciate it. And we appreciate having you guys a part of our network. And I think we should have our first network meetup at the Delong compound in Missouri. I think that's a good.
At the farm. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. I love it. All right. Well, thank you guys
Awesome.
so
Thank you.
much. Yes.